I think it was Yogi Berra who said, I'm paraphrasing, that predicting is a risky business, especially if it's about the future. So to deal both with Armageddon and prophecies of the return is a difficult and serious subject. And when I started writing my books, which began almost 40 years ago, the first book was titled The 12th Planet. I knew then, almost 40 years ago, that whatever volume the final one in that series called the Earth Chronicles will be, it will have to deal with the end of days, which is the name given by the Bible, in the Bible, to prophecies of the last days, the end time, and any other way that the term in Hebrew, which is Acharit Hayamim, is rendered. And I really delayed writing that final book for two reasons. Number one is that I felt I need to do more research, and actually took another 30 years of research to be able to give a plausible answer, one which I believe is the correct answer, but at least it should be sufficiently documented to be plausible. And the other reason is that I don't know if everybody will be happy with the conclusions of that book, The End of Days. Certainly, I think many of those that are specializing in the subject of what's about to happen have focused recently on 2012 AD. If I wanted to be nasty, which maybe I should be, is I can tell you right off that the only thing certain about 2012 that there'll be another presidential election then, and that no matter who you vote for this time, you will say, let's get rid of the bomb. Because otherwise, what is supposed to happen in 2012? It is mostly linked with the so-called Mayan calendar or Mayan prophecies, and I'll talk about it in greater detail as we go along. But as I understand what others are saying, is that it is a time that something, the present, the past will come to an end, and something will happen. And when you are pressing those others who specialize in 2012, and you ask them what will happen, they say, well, there's a planet. There's a planet that makes some great orbit and periodically comes to our vicinity, and at that time it causes all kinds of havoc. And in connection or in response to such kinds of prophecies, my answer is that to remind the audience that the same claims were made in regard, I don't know why, but in regard to 2003, and that's when the planet, the unknown planet, Planet X, will arrive, and do all kinds of unpleasant things to us, or maybe good things. And if you will recall, the same kind of prophecies were connected with the millennium, the year 2000. And one way or another, they are always coming back to Planet X. And if you say, what is Planet X? Oh, that is the planet about which this guy Sitchin has been writing. So what is this Planet X, and when really is it supposed to come back to our vicinity, and what is supposed to happen when it does? I started to write about it, as many of you may know, in my first book, The 12th Planet. It took me more than 30 years to research that material for that book. It was published the first time in 1976. The English, not hardcover, softcover, but the paperback edition, which is still selling everywhere, had about 50 printings by now, which is a record for the publishers. The book has been translated into some 24 languages, and I can share with you a personal irritation, and that is that one recent night I was awakened from a sleep which is not easy for me lately to fall asleep, and the phone, which is also a fax machine, rang around 12:30 a.m. And when I checked who is trying to reach me at this time, a fax from Hanoi that the publisher in Vietnam wants to translate into Vietnamese, The 12th Planet. And though, it's been translated by now to almost any language you can think of, I was thinking to myself, somebody in Vietnam, in Hanoi, after all that that place means to us, this is really something. Now what I did in the 12th Planet, and maybe that is the reason for its success and for its still being so powerfully around, is that I brought to life a civilization that was hardly known before, and that is the Sumerian civilization. I find it, although now more and more I find in articles, in other books, etc., reference to the Sumerian civilization, to the Sumerians, I find that it's still easier for even those who deal with that, like museums, to say Babylonian. For example, there is now in Europe an exhibit from ancient Mesopotamia where 3 museums, the one in London, in Paris, and in Berlin, have combined to put together some of their objects and show them in each one of the 3 places. And they refer to it as the Babylonian exhibit. So almost 40 years ago, when I or anybody else would say to somebody, well, the Sumerian civilization, you would get some kind of a blank look, the Sumerian would, what are you talking about? So I brought to life the Sumerian civilization, which was really a most amazing civilization. It blossomed out in what is now southern Iraq, in that part of the world,